You sound extremely bullish. Like short, yes. Like I know you're bullish long term. That's not a question. You sound bullish short term. Is that correct?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't think I necessarily called it. I think I just literally looked at the data, which is
that's calling. Come on, you're being very humble. That's calling it. Fuck off. Come on.
It is. But what I actually want to impress upon people is you've probably seen the narratives where like, oh, on-chain data is just shit. It's like, but it's literally us. It's a story of us making all of our decisions. And what do people do when they're underwater? They panic and they sell and they message their local analysts and say, bro, help, what's going on? Like these are human. The reason why on-chain data is magic is because it's human. It's so organically human. It's just the story of us doing human things. That's what I love about it. So yes, call them in terms of that sense, but like really the story's all there. Just someone has to read it. What was your question again?
For being so humble. Like just take the W, man. Take the W. Like, you're allowed to. Like you called it, but okay. We'll allow your humility.
Am I bullish? Yes. So
are you bullish?
My general view is price paying capitulation is in, which means that the bulk of the downside is done. I look at the world around us and I say, look, there are 1,001 reasons why we will get, I'm going to use Luke Groman's term here, a whoosh down. Something where the world just realizes, oh shit, my supply chains have got all sorts of problems. Oh, now I've actually run out of fuel because the tankers have finally arrived and now I've got nothing coming after that. There's private credit explodes, like choose your weapon. There's 1,001 things to cause like a whoosh down type event. I've been very constructive on Bitcoin, and I would call myself as having documented bottom formation since that February sell-off. So from 60K, price paying capitulation is in, human behavior has changed, smart money are accumulating. I think the bears are wrong. And by bears, anything below 55K, right? We might get a 50 on like some kind of a wick and I'll be like, okay, sure. You're not going to get anything perfect. But if we're trading below 54K for like a week, 2 weeks, then yeah, I've probably got to test my thesis. But yes, I'm very constructive. I think we probably don't get through the 80K region, 80, 85 on the first go. Generally we don't. So I would not be surprised. Like chop consolidation remains my base case, but the clear invalidation is that 80K zone. There's a ton of reasons why, and that's its own topic to itself. But yes, I'm bullish. I'm short term, like very, very near term, like just don't go max long now, like with leverage. Because now the funny thing is there's a ton of people going max short with leverage.
I'm always max long. I'm always max long check. I can't help myself.
This is the other side of the equation. What I love about we have so much data. On-chain tells a story of Bitcoiners. Futures markets tells us about people who are speculators. Now, I look at the on-chain market and I see a bunch of hodlers who are patiently absorbing a ton of supply in this bottom formation zone. I see probabilities that are very, very favorable, especially below 70K. And then I see in the futures market some of the deepest negative funding rates we've seen ever and I would argue on a sustained basis. I don't think I've ever seen futures traders so bearish. They are paying a 6.5% interest rate for the privilege of getting liquidated right now. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. So there's a very good chance that we just squeeze higher. But at 80K, 85, there's an absolute ton of people who bought that bear flag from November through to January who are going to sell into that rally. They want to get their money back. There's going to be tons of resistance that comes in there. So it helps me set up a framework. My base case is we chop consolidate for a couple more months. My base case is at 60K. I would say now it's probably 60% chance at the bottom. That is the bottom. I also think that getting down to 54K, like I keep that as it might happen. We might get an event where it's just like a whoosh down type event, totally within bounds. But anything below 70K is Q20. As a hodler, I'm not going to argue with the statistics. It's the bottom fifth. When's the bottom fifth in every previous market? It's like, oh, great time to buy. Do I ever regret whether it was 4K or 5K? No. Do I regret it was 20K or 15? No. It's the same thing, right? Ultimately, it's the exact same thing. So yes, I'm constructive, bullish, but as always with markets, it depends. It's nuanced.
Well, you're always check the analyst and check the hodler, right? And I appreciate that about you.
Well, the only reason check the analyst has a job is because check the hodler wants to know what's going on. He's just a curious dude, right? And the analyst is like, all right, let me see if I can solve this problem for you.
Okay, let me ask you another side of things. MicroStrategy's been buying like gangbusters.
Wow,
I forget what it is today. It was
20-something thousand, right?
It was tens of thousands of Bitcoin. I have been somewhat tuned out for like the last couple of weeks again. Quite a great entrance back into the scene with you, my friend. But like, strategy has been buying.
Yep.
I've been buying, not quite in the same volume that Michael is, but I've been buying.
Knock off a couple of
just like
points.
many orders of magnitude, you know. But who's selling right now? Is it still whale selling? What is on chain telling you about like who is still selling coins right now? Because I feel like, again, a lot of people are like, there's suppression. Yep. I believe you probably have a different perspective.
I do, yes. So the 80K sell-off in November, the metric that I talk about when I talk about sell side from these hodlers is called revived supply. Now, revived supply is basically long-term holders selling, as is true for all Bitcoin UTXO data. It's a beautiful power law. Glassnode did a fantastic study on this that just shows there is a power law distribution between how long a coin has been held and how much of the UTXOs that are spent every day and destroyed they represent. So what that basically means is the older a coin is, the less likely it is to be moved. Now, the threshold that we use in on-chain world is about 5 months, long-term, short-term. People love to argue with the terminology. Doesn't matter what you think. The statistics show otherwise. The thing about being at a 5-month threshold, the coins that are older than 5 months represent like 1 to 2% of the daily moves. And most of that is concentrated in bull markets when they take profit. So when we got to the all-time high, we were seeing $2.5–3 billion a day of revived supply. A very large chunk of that, as is expected, was 5 months, 6 months, 7-month-old coins. Why does that matter? Because you still held Bitcoin for 6 months and you didn't hold Nvidia. You didn't hold gold. You didn't hold any of the other things that were mooning, right? All the other things that were mooning. And before I forget, you asked me a question much earlier in this conversation, which is, will we ever see retail come back? Bro, I saw them in the line buying silver. Yes, they're coming back just when the price goes up. So that's a whole nother story.
Oof, yeah.
So revived supply, very high through the second half of 2025. It peaked at that November sell-off at 80K. And then it has just been off a cliff ever since. And we are now back to levels that we saw at the 2022 bottom and that like boring ass 2023 choppy period where we went nowhere at 30K, 25K. So the amount of old long-term holders selling off a cliff, like back to previous bear market baseline levels in USD terms, which if you think about it in Bitcoin terms means we're much lower because the price is 3 times higher, 4 times higher. So the amount of sell side, like there's a story there. The folks who sold the top in size are not selling since 80K. What do you think they were doing at 80K? They're realizing it's probably not the right time anymore. And what do you think they're doing at 60K and 70K? They're buying back. So there is a story in what they're doing and what they're not doing. Now, where is the sell side coming from? People who bought the top. We're seeing something to the tune of $600 million a day of realized loss from top buyers. And we saw $2 billion on the sell-offs at 80K and 60K. Most of the people who are selling, and just for a bit of a sense of scale here, I've got another chart that shows like the 30-day accumulation of the ETFs and strategy and compares that to the amount of capital flowing in from an on-chain perspective. Strategy and the ETFs, generally speaking, my line is that the ETFs and strategy and the bull have been about 25% of the demand each, so 20 to 25, depending on the day, of the overall sell side pressure. So they're like a fifth each of the demand side. So you're talking about, maybe half at like upper bounds. Today, those two alone are accumulating the amount of capital that's being flushed out by top buyers. So what happens if you have other spots buyers like you and I, who are also buying coins at a cheaper level? So like there's just a lot of reasons to not be a bear. There's just a lot of reasons to not be a bear. And I find it hard to be too bearish. Cautious, but not bearish.